Greetings YouTube and welcome to my stroll down memory lane where we discuss the mutations from the 1992 edition of the Gamma World post-apocalyptic science fantasy role-playing game, because it doesn't have as much to do with fiction as it does with fantasy, because this is a game where everything is very plastic. Entropy, reality. These are Marvel mutants, not real-world mutants. Real-world mutants, for the most part, don't live long. And last time we did Achilles heels through multiple limbs, and now we're going to be starting out with the ends through the end of the alphabet, which I don't remember what the last mutation is off the top of my head. I think it's a W. So we're going to start out with new body parts for animals and plants. Oh yes, as a quick update, you can play a new human, mutant human, an animal which is either looks like a normal animal or looks like an anthropomorphic animal, or a plant. So mutations are applicable to either physical or plants. New body parts, which is just what it sounds like. You have a body part on your body which is not normally part of your species' normal accoutrements. For example, you could have tentacles. I saw a picture once that somebody had done a character who had tentacles, but they were hair. So essentially, they looked like dreads, but they were actually tentacles. I thought that was kind of cool. Night vision, so you have a built-in night vision. So it would be starlight is like moonlight, and moonlight is like daylight for you. I always kind of like that one. Nocturnal defect. You have to sleep during the day. You have no choice. You are nocturnal by nature. Oversized limbs. So some of your limbs are larger than others, so your arms are a bit longer or your legs are longer, giving you an advantage, but also obviously making you look very much not like a normal member of your species. Kind of interesting. So you could have like a cat with long limbs. That'd be kind of freaky looking, I think. But okay. Then you have periodic amnesia, which is a defect where you literally just, every once in a while, you just forget things. Memento is a good example of that, though that's an extreme version. Phobia. You have a phobia of a particular thing, and that can be crippling at times. And some of the things are, classics. Open spaces, bright lights, darkness, loud noises, blood. But one thing is sentient plants. That one's kind of cool. You're afraid of sentient plants. Shoot, there was a science fiction comic book where a guy he hated plants. He was a cyborg. And now I can't remember the name of the comic, but he despised plants, and he would freak out every time he saw a plant. He would destroy it. So he would be particularly terrified of sentient plants. I believe he became a cyborg because a plant hurt him. Photodependent, kind of the opposite of nocturnal. You must be in sunlight, otherwise you're going to have a disadvantage. Photo generation, you will be able to generate a flash of light. And you can have up to 3 of these at the same time. Though I would probably also allow the person to generate light on a low level, just because that'd be cool. Photokinesis, you get to bend. You can bend or change light. So you can set up a field around stuff that bends most of the light around your body. So that's kind of some of the things you've seen with actual invisibility, real world stuff. I've seen like sheets of things, sheets of fabric, sheets of material that'll bend light around them. So that's the kind of thing that works that way. Photosynthetic skin. You have the ability to absorb plants' light to supply you with food and healing. This is obviously for animals, not for plants, because plants get that one for free. Plant-animal control. Now this one's kind of interesting. It's a mental mutation, and you can't control your own type. And I never quite understood that one. So if you're a plant, you can't control plants, and if you're an animal, you can't control animals. I didn't get that one. I never understood why they made that decision. I still don't. But yeah, you get to control plants and animals. Poison. And this is both for animals and plants, so you have some kind of a poisonous attack. But technically, folks, that's a venomous attack. Poisonous things you eat, venomous things that you inject into another. Poisonous thorns, again, venomous thorns, but you get the point, just for plants. Poor dual brain. You have a second brain, but it's defective, and it adversely affects your normal brain. Not a good mutation. Poor respiration. You permanently have asthma, essentially. Projectile seeds, you are a plant and you can fire bullets. I always like that one. Psychometry, you can read the past of an object, and that is very cool. Very cool. I'd imagine that someone who has this ability does that a lot. Like when it's downtime, they just pick up objects and read them, and they probably learn a lot of secrets that way, because you can just casually touch things and nobody knows it. And if you're a ghost mutant, they don't know you're doing it, so you can get a lot of dirt on people in that way, I bet. Pyrocryokinesis, your ability to generate either heat or cold. Quills or spines. This is a physical mutation, and it's just what it says, like, you produce quills or spines. So you get to have the same kind of benefits that a porcupine does. Radiated eyes. You get to fire beams of radiation from your eyeballs, which is awesome. Razor-edged leaves, obviously for only plants, so you get to have a built-in knife. Regeneration, and pretty much straightforward. You've got a low-level version of what Wolverine's got. Repulsion field. You can create an invisible wall of force around any point other than himself. So kind of Sue Storm's force field, but you can only project it. You cannot use it for your own defense. Look at that. Look at that art. It's so wonderfully over the top. I love that. Here we go. Seizure. Not good. You have epileptic seizures, essentially, triggered by some external force. Shape change. You get to be able to change your physical form. Very powerful and very useful. Size change. This is a permanent thing. So if you're either bigger or smaller than your normal species would be, and you have advantages and disadvantages to that. So you could be a small elephant, which is going to mean you're a lot more able to get around, but you're not as strong as a normal elephant is, or you could be a giant rat. So that kind of thing. Skeletal enhancement, so you have wicked strong bones. Very useful, as you take less damage from physical attacks because of this, and your fall damage is less because you don't break bones. Skin structure change. This is a defect. So you could be an albino. You could glow. You're water soluble. That's a bad one. I would also allow the person to have some kind of natural oil they exude, so they don't actually stink, because that would be kind of unpleasant. And then you also have water dependent, so there are animals out there that need water. It would also be disadvantage if you are trying to play a character that is not around water all the time. Sonar. You've got a bad sonar sense. Sonic Blast, just what it sounds like. You can scream at someone and harm them. Or maybe it's a hand prop thing. I like the voice thing. I think that's kind of cool. Sound imitation. You get to mimic sounds perfectly. Anything you've heard in the last 24 hours, you can hear any frequency of sound, including sonar. You can hear and you imitate voices by using the exact words you heard spoken by the voices. So you couldn't just do like John Wayne's accent, but you could perfectly emulate anything John Wayne said, or piece together a sentence from anything that you've heard him say, which is kind of cool. You are immune to the harmful effects of any sound and can imitate destructive sounds like sonic blast mutations. He cannot imitate himself. So if somebody hits you with a sonic attack, you can fire that right back at their butt. Spore cloud. It's a cloud of spores that does an attack against somebody else. Squeeze vines. You have vines. Maybe not for your species, so a tree that has vines. Or you just have your vine-like creature who has vines strong enough to do an attack. There's a cat sitting on top of my computer. It's not necessarily where I want her at the moment, but at least she's not in my way. And she's sneezing in the background. Sorry about that. You have stunning force. You can a mental attack against another person. Let's see what it is. You create a mental shout, essentially. Summoning, you get to send a telepathic call for a particular species of creature. So it's Animal Man. You get to call animals to your aid. Hi there. Or Dracula, who gets to summon bats and wolves and things like that. Symbiotic attachment, which is you can take control of someone else through touch. You touch the creature, and if it controls, you control the victim's actions. So you get to use their abilities as against their will. So you're in charge of their body. Telekinesis does what it says. You get to move objects with your mind, but it's very gross. No subtle control. Telekinetic hand is the next mutation that is delicate manipulation. So you have a mental hand that you can reach out and do things with out to a range, but it's not as strong as the normal telekinesis. You can't pick up big things, but you can do things with accuracy. Makes you a great thief. Telekinetic flight, you get to fly because you just mentally will it. Telepathy, you can speak with other people via your mental powers. Teleport object, you can teleport an object from one place to another. You must be able to see the object. Very useful. Also makes you a really great thief. The next one is teleportation, which is, my opinion, the best mutation there is for any kind of superhero game. Thorns or spikes, does what it says on the tin. Thought imitation, you are able to imitate any mental attack or ability that has personally experienced in the last 24 hours. So if somebody hits you with a mental blast for the next 24 hours, you can use that mental blast against them. Somebody else has used another kind of mutation against you, you can use that against other people for 24 hours. Makes you very dynamic, but you don't get to choose what you've got. Unless you have someone in the party and you're willing to put up with their attack against you, you could then both have that ability at the same time. Total healing, you're able to accelerate the rate of healing, but you have to essentially concentrate on this kind of thing. But you can use this to overcome particular types of damage. So you can try to flush poisons out of your system or wipe away radiation, that kind of thing. So it takes attention and concentration, but it allows you a better level of diversity to your healing than just hit points. So that's kind of cool. Transfusion, physical or plant, you are able to heal somebody else but not yourself by touch. That's been seen lots of times in comic books and science fiction and stuff. Ultravision, you are able to see any form of energy. So you can see the full spectrum of the electromagnetic, essentially the electrical, not the infrared, the other end, the other end of the spectrum. So if you had infravision and ultravision, you'd be able to see the entire spectrum. I think we use this to trace electrical lines in a wall or something for some puzzle we had to get through once. Voice imitation. The character can imitate normal sounds from any source that he has heard in the past 24 hours. So this allows you to do full-on imitation. But you can create anything. So you hear an accent, you could perfectly emulate that accent. Oh, look at Apple software would like to do an update. Screw you, Apple software. Then we have Will Force. Mutant can increase his one mental ability at a time. So the opposite of another mutation in the first version of this, first part of this video I did, where you can boost a physical stat you have temporarily, but you get to switch from ability to ability to ability. This is the opposite. You get to enhance a particular mental mutation, or rather mental stats. You can make yourself better at defending yourself. You can make yourself smarter. You can make yourself more charismatic. And you could switch which ones you want to use at any one particular time. And then lastly, and I was correct, W is the final mutation is wings. So a creature that does not normally have wings gets wings. And interestingly, it's only physical. So plants can't have wings? I don't know. I think that wings... It's justification for plants having wings. All right, so this has been... It's a shorter version than the first one. Shorter video than the first one. So this has been my little saunter down memory lane on the Gamma World 1982 edition of their mutations. And you can see how these mutations would allow you to have a very diverse group of people in the same group. And And if you're lucky in your mutation selection, you can be a ghost mutant. So you can very easily blend in. For example, the ability to make yourself mentally more flexible by increasing a mental stat is not going to be visible. You could be a very powerful physical mutant and have, for example, strong bones, and you're better at combat and things like that. That is very passive, so you don't necessarily see it. And again, like Wolverine, you don't see that he's a mutant initially. You just see he's a short, fuzzy dude. So you can have characters in the game which are very visibly mutants and ones that are not very visible mutants. So you never know what you're going to be faced with someone who looks perfectly normal. My cat could look perfectly normal, but could be a devastatingly powerful mutant with the right kind of selection of mental and physical capabilities. I loved this game. I had so much fun creating characters for it, either through random and shoot. I believe that somebody created a piece of software that was allow you to automatically generate. Yes, they did. I think I may have a copy of it. I'm not positive. I'm not sure where it is on my hard drive because one of my hard drives is not accessible to me at the moment. It fades in and out of existence. That's why I bought a new hard drive. And it would allow you to randomly generate mutant characters. So you could say, generate me Pure Strange, and you keep hitting that button and it would generate an entire character for you. But it also does mutant animals. And I can remember sitting here for like an hour at a time, hitting the same thing to see what I got at random, just because it's so darn fun to see the kind of random stuff you can get. So this has been my saunter down memory lane for mutations in the 1992 edition of Game World. Tell me if any of this would have inspired you to create characters. If you ever played this particular version of the game, I'd like to know as well, because there are people out there who do really love this game. And this era of post-apocalyptic games when things were a little more cartoony and a little less grim and gritty, or as they're actually referred to as wild and wacky. I've often heard that phrase in reference to Game World, and it's